grown drugs will eventually alienate themselves from their families, friends, their jobs, and even their own personal health. Heavy users will experience rapid weight loss, pale skin, brittle hair, and rotten teeth. A meth user is either high, angry, or asleep. They may stop bathing and have little desire for food, existing only in anticipation of that next high. The downfall spiral on this drug is quick and sudden, and in worst cases, within 6 weeks a user can inflict enough permanent damage to their body to cause a lifetime of medical problems, or death. However, it is far more frequent for users to survive for years through the pain and the misery of their addiction.
It's just powerfully addictive. Ask any meth user what the problem is, why meth, and they're going to respond almost all the same, is that there's just never enough meth. You can just never have enough. And they're always looking for their next hit, their next score, and continually want to be putting this stuff into their bodies.
But it's one of the drugs that we fear the most from law enforcement because it's the most unpredictable with the people that use it. What are they going to do? They're very paranoid. They're very physical. For some weird reason, they have knives all the time. So we don't like to run into them. And the environment and the amount of garbage and the amount of bad chemicals that they surround themselves with to make methamphetamine causes us some pain.
Your body craves them, and you will do anything to get that high again. But each time it gets worse. Each time it gets worse, you need it sooner. Maybe you only were using it once a week. Maybe you're only using it twice a week. The longer you use it, the faster you are getting addicted.
Marijuana is often called a gateway drug. Users will begin to abuse alcohol and marijuana, and then move on to other drugs because the highs they experience with these no longer satisfy their cravings. Marijuana, like meth, is inexpensive and easily accessible. Users can grow their own in a small room or a greenhouse, and access to the drug has permeated our community and our schools. In a recent survey, a majority of high school students say they have at least one close friend who uses marijuana. Society sends mixed signals about the use of this drug. Medical marijuana proponents espouse the benefits, and parents who may have experimented with the drug in their youth may be reluctant to talk to their own children about the dangers. But the marijuana of today is not the drug of the 70s. Today's crop is far more potent and much more addictive.
What it boils down to ultimately is paying attention to what's normal, and when things aren't normal, having the fortitude to say, why isn't this happening, or why is this happening, and then asking and then confronting the person that it's happening to or that is causing this aberrant behavior to happen. You just have to pay attention is all. And once you do and you see the problems and the problem is identified, then you step into another chapter of, okay, now I know, now what do I do, now who do I call, now which avenue do I take? But it's just, you just need to pay attention.
Cocaine and heroin have serious impacts on their users and our community. The euphoria that these drugs produce makes them a danger to users and to those who may come in contact with them during the high. Agitation, paranoia, hallucinations, convulsions, and possible death are present every time a user hooks up for a new fix. This roulette wheel of suffering spares no one and can call the number on a hardened addict or first-time user in any spin. But in this game, there are no winners.
It was a couple, husband and wife. I won't say well-to-do, but certainly well off, comfortably off, and they started using cocaine. And before you know it, they spiraled down, and they were lost, totally lost. They got into some crimes as well as the use of the drug, And, perfectly productive, good lives just went down the tubes. And that's always, I think if you're halfway objective, when you look at cases like that, that's one of the real dangers of drugs that people may not be aware of. I mean, you could overdose and die. That's a pretty severe, but you can ruin your own life without even meaning to, just for the pleasure, very limited pleasure of getting high.
Well, I can remember seeing a 28-year-old woman who came to see me with a heroin addiction, and she had needle marks on almost every portion of her body and multiple abscesses, and was dying from the infections caused by that. What struck me was how powerful the addiction was in her, that she couldn't not continue to inject herself despite an obvious tortured body.
Make no mistake, alcohol is a drug, and it's the most prevalent drug addiction in our and most communities. It is available at any liquor or grocery store, and when used to excess, can have deadly consequences. The majority of traffic fatalities, domestic violence cases, rapes, and violent crimes have one thing in common. More often than not, the perpetrator is under the influence of alcohol. Binge drinking is prevalent among underage users. These children are less aware of the dangers a lethal overdose can bring, and are often encouraged through peer pressure to push the boundaries of common sense. Drinking and driving is, of course, the most common of killers.
People don't think of alcohol as a drug, or they think that they're just social users. And if I drink a six-pack or a bottle of tequila this weekend, I don't really have an alcohol problem. And yes, they do have an alcohol problem. Young people, and it goes across the age span. We have patients in here in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that also do that, binge drinking. And when you down a six-pack or a 12-pack, or you have drank a bottle of tequila or vodka, you are not going to be able to protect your airway. You're going to go unconscious. And when you're unconscious, you can't protect your airway. You're going to throw up. You could aspirate, and you could be dead. And a few years ago here in the Tri-Cities, we did have that. We had a young man that was a drug alcohol overdose that did exactly that.
You want to live a drug life with the abuse, the stealing, the lies, the death, the prisons. That's what you're looking for.
But why are people drawn to these drugs? Most often it's due to peer pressure or depression. Sometimes it's the lack of guidance, or the user is self-medicating, an untreated mental disorder, and the drugs seem to fit the bill. At first, addicts seek the drug because it makes them feel good. Over time, the user needs the drug to face the normal ups and downs of life, or uses the drug to escape the challenges of life entirely. An uncontrollable and powerful addiction is always the result.
When drugs became my life, my family was nothing to me. I would steal, I would lie, and to have a child with a drug-addicted parent is one of the worst things of a child's life. There was one time when I needed drugs so bad that I left my daughter screaming for her mother to go get my drugs. I just left. And you cannot be a parent, you cannot do anything as a mother or father, for that case, if you're taking drugs.
It takes hold from the first time you use it. I truly believe that. It did for me, at least. Without me even realizing it, I'd lost jobs, I had lost relationships, I was losing track of all my hopes and my dreams, my goals that I had ever wanted were pretty much out the door before I could even realize it.
Most drug addiction can be prevented before it begins. You've heard the phrase, look, listen, and ask. These behaviors are powerful prevention tools. Community awareness is also important. Users often have no sense of belonging